Welcome, everyone. This is Coach Jessie Rodriguez Melendez. How exciting is it for us to be live again on All Bases Covered? Thank you, everyone who would probably be joining us tonight. If you are joining us, please tell us where you're joining from. Tell us your name. I have a really, really cool guest on with me tonight. But before I introduce her, I'd like to just introduce myself, give you guys a little background history on who I am. My name is Jessie Rodriguez Melendez, and I am the proud owner of the Baseball Training Institute, the Baseball Homeschool Institute. And a little later tonight, hang out here with me because I will be making a really exciting announcement about something new that I will be launching. And tell me, what has everyone been doing over the last few months in this absolutely crazy world we are living in? Let's call this post-COVID, the post-COVID show. Let's hope, right? I know that a lot of people have been struggling this year and challenged because there's just been so much happening in our world. And so I want to hear from everyone tonight. Tell me, how have you been staying sane? What have you been doing to sort of cope? And especially for, athletes out there, I know that this has been a very challenging year. Specifically for baseball, I'm going to talk a little bit about baseball because that is our sport of expertise. We've been getting all kind of phone calls from coaches and of course facilities asking us, how do they stay afloat? And it's super sad for us to hear the stuff that's going on with facilities that have been forced to stay closed or closed down permanently, shut their doors permanently. Of course, that breaks our hearts because these are facilities and coaches that really are super passionate about serving their community, serving the youth in their community. And so, it really does break my heart. But I have now been working with these coaches and teaching them a new way of business, a new way to set themselves up, especially online, because everything seems to be going online nowadays. And so I've been working a lot with those coaches. So if you hang here with me tonight till the end, I'll tell you a little bit more about this very special launch that I am excited about announcing tonight. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce my very special guest tonight. Her name is Patty Luu, and she is the director and CEO of Driven to Peak Consulting. She's going to come on and we're going to chat a little bit tonight about the psychology of sports and the psychology for athletes and how athletes get affected by all of, not just in season, but I really want to dig into this tonight with Patty and ask her what's been her experience now with all of this craziness and the stuff that's going on. And so again, the name of her company is Driven to Peak Consulting. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and I want to welcome Patty Luu to the show. Patty, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So Patty, why don't I go ahead and have you formally introduce yourself? Tell us exactly, what the name of your company is again, and where are you based out of?
Okay. My company name is Driven to Peak Consulting. I live in Richmond, Virginia. I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia.
Awesome. And so, Patty, tell me, what made you get into this? What made you get into the business of sports?
Well, as a little kid, at that time, I was like 6, 7, or 8 years old. I saw Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls play in the NBA Finals. At that time, I did not know it was his second to last season with the Chicago Bulls. I saw him play against the Utah Jazz and win his 5th and 6th championships on TV. Ever since that first exposure, I fell in love with sports. I knew from that moment on, I wanted a career related to sports.
And how did you have to prepare for a career like this?
Well, basically, going into undergrad, I knew that I was majoring in psychology. And So since I always knew that I wanted a career related to sports, I decided to pursue my master's related to performance and sports psychology following undergrad.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing this now?
I started in December of 2017 running my own business, but in December of 2019, I started from scratch and niched in to focus on high school and college athletes. I take on younger athletes on a case-by-case basis.
So I love that you said that, Patty, because I am a sports business coach, and I help coaches that want to build and scale their sports business or their sports expertise, right? How to take their sports, the love of sports, their knowledge and expertise, and turn it into a real business. And so I love that you say that you niched it specifically to, you said high schoolers and what other age group?
High school and college athletes.
Okay, and why did you choose to do that? Why high school and college?
Okay, because with high school, those are the ones that are aiming for the college athletic scholarship for college. That's why. And the motivation to get that athletic scholarship will convince parents to pay, because I can help them consistently perform at their best so that they put themselves in the best position to get that college athletic scholarship.
I love that. Yeah, and the reason I love that is because I truly believe that sports is such a great tool. One, to keep, kids motivated, those that really do love sports, and two, to help them get an education, right? We helped over 100 of our kids get scholarships through our programs. So we're very passionate about that. So I love, love, love that you said that. Now I'm going to ask you a business question. I'm sure you get tons of questions about the psychology part to this.
Yes.
How were you challenged when you decided to get your business started?
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. Yes, I didn't go to school for business. I went to school in psychology.
Right.
I went to school for psychology. It wasn't business. So yes, I basically, for the year and a half I was on my own. I was basically watching stuff on YouTube, going on Facebook, consuming free stuff. Then I knew that this just wasn't going to work. I didn't have an elevator pitch. I didn't have a simple way of explaining to people what I do for a living. Like the typical person out in society believes every myth that there is related to the performance and sports psychology field. However, they can't believe the truth.
I love that. And so, what was the point that you pivoted and you said, okay, this is really what I want to do. And because you're in the business, you're like my husband. Tony is, he's service. He loves to serve. He serves from his heart. He loves athletes, but he's not a business person. He has no business savvy really. And he doesn't have he doesn't have that entrepreneurial kind of, mindset. He's driven to teach. That's what he loves. That's his passion. He loves to work with athletes. So what was your moment that you had to make that shift and say, okay, now I also have to have a business mindset?
And at the time I hired my business coach, it was towards the end of September 2019. We started working together in October of 2019.
And how has that impacted your business?
Well, it really showed me like the process, like from doing the market research to researching your competitors to asking your ICA about your ideas and seeing how they feel about it before you actually do the work on your idea to see if it's worth it.
And so how do you now find your ideal client?
I got my first few clients through speed networking on Facebook, in a Facebook group. Yes, I've had success with Facebook groups so far.
Awesome. And so who is your ideal client? Tell me, I'm an athlete, and why would I want to work with Patty?
Okay. Okay. You have the dream of playing in college or even beyond college. I'm not just restricting your dream to a college athletic scholarship and finishing 4 years.
Right.
If you want to play in college and beyond, you have this love for the game. You think that you're doing everything possible. You're practicing, you're training. However, you still can't seem to get over the hump of performing consistently at your best. Those special performances happen every once in a while, or you're able to have that magic, produce that magic in practice. However, you can't produce that magic in competition. In critical times during competition, crunch time, that's when you falter. You want to get over that hump. You want to decrease the pressure you put on yourself on the day of competition. You want to establish a routine. You want to have more confidence in yourself and just basically have better self-belief. Learn to handle success so that you can keep experiencing it. Don't let success become something of pressure, which it often does become. And basically working on like motivation and structuring your practice so that you practice smarter and to make sure that you really improve your skills, not just practice whatever you want, which is most likely your strengths, rather than working on your weaknesses so that you do become a better player.
I love that, Patty. So let me ask you this, because with everything that's happening in our crazy world now,
Mm-hmm.
and so many athletes have been affected by this in so many ways, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I've watched, so I'm going to start from my perspective and then I'm going to
Okay.
let you share your perspective. So one is we're hearing from both coaches and athletes that their programs have either been shut down completely or they've been minimized to some
Okay.
degree. They have been, they've had to restructure things. They've had to restructure how they practice, how they train, how they travel, how they compete. Obviously, some of them haven't even been able to compete this year because it's like some of their
Mm-hmm.
stuff has been canceled completely. What have you experienced speaking to athletes out there that are already challenged? What has been your experience when talking to your athletes about what is the current situation, especially with COVID?
uh, with COVID, they are experiencing a little loss of motivation because of the uncertainty of whether or not they're going to have a season or not. If they knew that they were going to have a season, they would be more motivated to practice, to train, and just basically making sure that they practice game realistic situations rather than um, if they do decide to voluntarily practice on their own without the coaches or the whole team, like just a few teammates getting together to practice a few times a week, that they vary their practice so they're not practicing the same thing over and over again. It gets boring. So I helped him vary his practice structure so that it is different.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because that's one of the things that Tony has been suggesting as well. He says, you can't change what's happening around you. You can only control what's happening within
Mm-hmm.
you and with you, right? So
Yeah.
even though the situation is uncertain right now, it's always best, and this is what we suggest to our athletes, it's always best to be prepared and if it doesn't happen, then not be prepared and suddenly it is happening and you're not prepared for it, because now you're not in a position, not physically, mentally, or emotionally are you positioned to be competitive at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's one of the big tips that you give athletes that may be struggling, especially mindset stuff, because that's a big thing for athletes. Athletes struggle often, not just with wanting to have peak, right? So
Yeah.
they want to have peak performance, they want to perform to their best ability, And oftentimes it's what's happening in here that's preventing them from do that. So what is a great tip that you often share with your athletes?
Changes take time. A routine takes about 30 days to develop. You're going to mess up. You're going to revert back to your old habits. The most important thing is to get back on track as fast as possible.
And give me a little bit of the science behind this, because you're a sports psychologist. What's some of the science behind this?
Oh, just for clarity, I'm not a sports psychologist.
Okay. So,
Yes.
so from your expertise, though, what is there a science behind a lot of this stuff?
Well, it's just results from research studies suggest that
Okay.
it takes at least a month to form a routine.
Got you. And
Yes.
so if you were going to give any, let's say across the board, not a specific sport, but if you were going to give athletes across the board a really good piece of advice, what would that be?
Um, continue to practice and train even within the restrictions right now that's been placed
Right.
as best as you can, because you never know when competition is going to resume, and
Right.
you just can't go from doing the minimum, training and attending mandatory training and practices, doing the minimum, and expecting to see improvement whenever competition resumes.
What are some of the techniques that you use to help some of your athletes that are struggling with some of this?
Well, I try to keep it fun as well. Like for some of my athletes that I work with, they play video games, and then
Okay.
I was like, okay, let's use your video game time to play that particular football or that particular basketball game. That way, you can learn from it. You can learn from it and get your video game time at the same time. Therefore, the parents get some of what they want and the kid gets some of what they want.
How much of the activity that you do with your athletes are parents involved in?
Well, it depends on the age. If it's an older athlete, teenager athletes, they are less involved. If it's like a 10-year-old, the parent is more involved.
Okay, so you do see some athletes that are that young.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, Now, if someone wanted to get in contact with you and get your advice, or do you
Mhm.
offer free consultations, or how does someone work with you?
Yes, I offer a free 20-minute session to see if sports psychology is something that you think will benefit you, for you to learn more about how sports psychology can benefit your children in athletics. I do offer a free 20-minute call.
Okay, so great. What I'll have you do, Patty, is I'll have you send me your link and I will put it in this broadcast. So anyone who's interested in working or getting more info from you will be able to contact you.
Mhm.
Again, the name of Patty's company is Driven to Peak Consulting. She works specifically with athletes, and and again, tell us exactly what your title is.
Okay, as a performance enhancement consultant slash coach, I help high school and young adult athletes overcome the mental blocks that prevent them from improving their performance and achieving their goals. Other names that also refer to me that are common in the field are mental performance coach, mental performance consultant. The
Mm,
difference between me and a sports psychologist is that I focus on sports performance issues. A sports psychologist helps with both mental health and sports performance issues. I
gotcha.
only focus on sports performance issues.
Got you. So I remember at one time there were some athletes in the New York area, specific to baseball. I won't mention any names, but there was one in particular that was having an issue, and just he couldn't get the ball. He couldn't throw the ball. I mean, we're talking about this guy was in, played in the World Series and, was a very high performing athlete. And we called it the gyps. Like he couldn't reach his base. What actually what happens in an athlete's mind that can cause some of that?
Yes, it could be the fear of failure. It could be the fear of failure, or he made a mistake at a crucial point in the game, and he has to be able to forget that mistake, and it's been lingering.
Got you.
And
Yeah.
he's focused on he's gonna miss rather than focusing on what he needs to do to give himself the best shot of doing what he wants to do correctly.
Got it. Yep. Yeah, I remember we all used to watch and, we would all sit on pins and needles when it was time for him to throw the ball because we all got to the point that we knew that he was struggling so badly with that. And everyone felt bad. We were, we're New York fans. We wanted him to succeed, but it became such a thing that they ended up having to change his position. And it was really interesting to watch how how that had developed for him. He went on and then played with other teams, and I think he did great. But to watch that happen was really interesting. So, Patty, thank you so much. It was so informative to have you on with us tonight. I appreciate all of your insight. Again, the name of Patty's company is Driven to Peak Consulting. I will drop a link to Patty's consultation inquiry line, and we're going to put that in the broadcast. And again, Patty, if there's another way how can people get in contact with you? Tell us your social handles and how can people contact you?
Okay, all my social media accounts are also Driven to Peak Consulting. I have a Facebook page, Driven to Peak Consulting. My Facebook group name is Peak Performance Athletes.
Okay, so there you have it, guys. If you need to, if you're struggling in this area and you're really needing professional guidance and expertise, someone who deals directly with athletes, then Patty Luu is your person to contact. And again, the name of her company is Driven to Peak Consulting. Patty, thanks again for having you tonight. It was so informative, and I appreciate you spending your time here with us tonight. And so I will speak to you soon. I will be in contact with you so that we can connect on some of these other projects that I'm working on. Thanks so much, Patty.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All righty. So there you have it, guys. That was Patty Luu from Driven to Peak Consulting. I am so grateful that she, spent a little time here with us tonight. And so, a lot's been happening for us over the summer months. COVID hit and we have still been working. And here's what's, what we're so blessed by, and we've been so fortunate. For those of you that know, about 2 years ago, the facility that we used to run all of our programs from, the Baseball Training Institute, we had a brick and mortar. We were based out of the Bronx, New York. And the landlord came and told us that he was selling the building. And luckily for me, I had already been in the process of starting our programs online. Little did I know that almost 2 years later, COVID was going to happen. And we were totally prepared. We were so prepared because I had already started all of our programs online. And it got me thinking, and I said, okay, how can I best help other coaches that may be in the position that we were once in, trying to help ourselves, stay consistent, stay working, right? Because that was the big thing. How are we going to work? That's the question that I get a lot of now from coaches that are reaching out to me. And so I said, okay, what can I do to help so that I can share my knowledge and expertise with coaches that perhaps are needing now to learn how to turn their sports business into an online, turn it into an online platform, or coaches that, want to take their expertise and their knowledge and turn it into a business. And so I am so excited tonight to announce that I have now launched the Sports Business Institute. And the Sports Business Institute is going to be helping any coach. It doesn't matter if you are baseball. So you don't have to be a baseball coach to work with me and us in this program. This is I'm going to open this now to all coaches. So tennis, football, basketball, swimming, lacrosse, golf, whatever your expertise is. If you're passionate about helping, making an impact in your community or helping the youth, and you, are perhaps doing this already to some capacity, you're volunteering your time in the community, teaching kids sports. I want to help you turn your passion into a paycheck. And so I have now launched the Sports Business Institute. I'm super excited about it. So stay tuned for tons of information that I will be sharing about exactly when the program will start. I don't anticipate the program. I don't anticipate starting the program anyway for at least another 30 to 45 days. But I promise you that when I do, you guys will be the first. So here's what I'm asking my tribe, my community here on Facebook. If you would please be so kind to share this video with other folks, perhaps people that you know that can benefit from the information that I shared here tonight with Patty Luu. If you know any coaches that perhaps have always dreamed of building, or coaches that are already doing it but want to scale their business, they want to take it to, a new level, then I would love for you to connect me with those coaches. And I really hope that we have all been able to maintain our sanity through all this craziness. And I pray that everyone stays safe and that everyone stays healthy. And as we prepare to go into quarter number 4 and make this an absolutely phenomenal end of year. And might I remind you to, always stay positive, keep the faith, and stay unbeatable always. See you next week.